Have you ever wanted to rule the world? I know I have. Risk Global Domination has you covered. In short, Risk is a strategy board game of diplomacy, conflict, and conquest. A classic game that is near and dear to me ever since I was a child, dreaming of unlimited power and influence. Today, I want to take you on a journey of friendship, betrayal, and a world conflict of epic proportions. It begins like every Risk game does, claiming territories and bolstering your troops. The powers at play here are yours truly, commanding the blue faction, the orange faction led by the blithesome Pepe, the pink faction and its leader Dreadpop the duplicitous, and the deadliest and most power-hungry AI known to humankind, in yellow's Lynn Sparks, red's Tiger Bonaparte, and green's Gertrude the Tall. Let's set the stage. We start with the Green faction, who are mainly occupying Asia, marching their way into Ural and Indonesia. The Yellow faction, quite spread out globally, focuses their efforts on Europe, invading southern Europe from Egypt and Scandinavia from Iceland. Now, it's my turn. Based in the North American territories, I take on Gertrude in Ontario. Mostly split between Africa and Europe, Red faction begins to bulk up in South Africa and Ukraine, taking the Congo and Northern Europe in their first attack. Dreadpop, whose focus is pushing Gertrude back and conquering the Australian territories, takes Indonesia and Siam, the first faction to conquer an entire continent. Unfortunately, Pink suffers a very painful loss in the Middle East trying to take India, but shifts their focus to take China from Siam. Pepe and the Orange faction take Peru and conquer South America, now the second continent overtaken by a single force. Now that the battle lines have been drawn, we begin to see what each faction is working towards and how they plan to achieve global domination. Green boosts troops in Siberia and takes back Siam and Indonesia. Dreadpop remarks at his troop strength in Australia.
I have so many people down in Australia. Why does he think he can hold that? It's going to turn into the Australian Vietnam.
Yellow, now clearly looking to conquer Europe, attacks Great Britain and Northern Europe, reinforcing it. My next target is Central America, but after losing 3 armies, I decide to retreat. I move on to the east to take Mongolia from Irkutsk to get my second territory card. Red adds armies in the Congo, but their forces are decimated trying to take North Africa from Pepe. Red's second phase of his assault on Egypt proves to be successful though. Dreadpop, seeing the arms race happening around him, strengthens the Middle East. In a massive failure, Pink loses trying to take Indonesia from Western Australia and New Guinea. Dreadpop can't believe it.
What?
Still looking for his first territory card, Dreadpop takes India from the Middle East and Siam from India. Seeking revenge for the prior losses, he looks to attack Indonesia from Siam, but Indonesia holds strong again.
I did what I could.
Escher remarks at how intimidating Green looks in Ural. Green right there though, with that 7's looking pretty scary. Still with a foothold in Africa, Pepe reinforces there and marches south to take the Congo and South Africa, but fails in his attempt to take Madagascar. At this point during our global conflict, it's anyone's war to be won. But what happens next is something none of us saw coming. Green reinforces Indonesia and takes New Guinea from Dreadpop, but he holds strong in eastern Australia. Yellow supplements more armies in Western Europe and marches on North Africa. What no one noticed was how quietly Lynn Sparks was building his forces in Europe, and how poorly Tiger Bonaparte and the Red faction stationed their armies. Ukraine then falls to Yellow, conquering all of Europe.
Yellow coming out of nowhere, dominating Europe.
With the Yellow faction in control across the sea, the Blue Army again looks to take Central America, and succeeds this time, eliminating Lynn Sparks' foothold in North America. Seeking retribution, Red strengthens East Africa and takes back the Congo from Pepe. With Gertrude's forces weakened in Southeast Asia, Dreadpop takes Indonesia and New Guinea to gain control of the entire Australian region once again. In a move that baffled strategists at the time, Dreadpop turned his forces in Kamchatka to my armies in Irkutsk. Pink then overwhelms Irkutsk before Mongolia stops them. Oh, okay, I see how it is.
Oh, shit, you're blue. I was thinking that was AI.
Yeah.
I was going to go for yellow, my bad.
The move was questionable, but at the time, I chalked it up to poor intel and bad leadership on the ground. Next, Pepe begins to target Africa again, this time taking Madagascar in East Africa, but failing to take the battleground that is the Congo. With Pepe's African forces weakened, it sets up a potential red or yellow faction domination of the continent, especially considering Lynn Sparks' hold on Europe. As for me, as much as I'd like to have North America for myself, my alliance prevents me from seizing the eastern US from Pepe. Now, Dreadpop is occupying a lot of Asia, but it's still anyone's game. It might get a little spicy. The pink-green conflict continues as Gertrude seizes China from Dreadpop and my only Asian foothold in Mongolia. Yellow, with its European troop bonus, amplifies their power in Iceland and Ukraine, and proceeds to march right into Greenland and take it from me. Splitting into two theaters of war, Yellow moves east as well to annex Afghanistan from Red. Well, okay. I guess I know what my next move is gonna have to be.
Yeah, we need to start focusing on Yellow.
With the new goal set, I reinforce Quebec and take back Greenland. To truly push back against Lynn Sparks, I needed to act fast. Attacking while his western front is weak was the only option for me. Taking over Iceland and Great Britain now eliminates his European troop bonus. With only 2 territories occupied, Tiger Bonaparte and the Red faction bolsters Egypt and takes East Africa. Then, in a defensive move, Dreadpop reinforces the Middle East and India without attacking any territory, a first in this war. Pepe, now taking full advantage of his troop bonuses, stacks 15 armies in South Africa.
I'm gonna take
That
that
could
out.
steamroll all the way through up into Europe.
You absolutely could. After a hard-fought battle, Pepe finally takes the Congo. Moving into East Africa and Egypt, he defeats Tiger Bonaparte and the Red faction. Pepe wasn't done yet, as he continues his march and seizes North Africa from Yellow. Pepe and Dreadpop are dominating the southern hemisphere, and both look to push their way northward. I, on the other hand, have been a bit more reserved, acting when I need to, and making the moves when they count. Still, with all this firepower, the writing is on the wall for some. Green surges troop production and heavily reinforces Ural, taking Afghanistan, Irkutsk, and Kamchatka, becoming the dominant force in Asia. With Gertrude's acquisition and reinforcement of Kamchatka, I suspected she may try to move into North America. To make matters worse, Yellow reinforces troops in Northern Europe, signaling a possible attack on Great Britain, but then takes Irkutsk from Green instead. Lynn Sparks then reinforces Ukraine with 2 armies from Northern Europe. This move left their western front weak, and had Yellow acted differently, it could have turned the tide of war in their favor. Still anticipating an attack on Alaska, I send in reinforcements to defend the western front, but seeing the miscalculation Lynn Sparks made, I turn to the eastern front to take Western Europe, now left vulnerable by Yellow. Dreadpop reinforces India and Siam and takes Afghanistan from the Middle East. In his efforts to occupy more of Asia, India takes losses versus China, but then crushes them from Siam instead. Pepe receives a huge troop bonus and builds up his forces in Egypt and Japan. He then moves northward into southern and northern Europe, through Scandinavia and into Ukraine, eliminating Yellow from Europe entirely. At this point in our conflict, Pepe has become a force to be reckoned with. With Gertrude the Tall and Lynn Sparks grasping at what they can in Northeast Asia, the Allied forces are slowly moving in. But defeating these factions means we must face each other. Green stacks troops in Kamchatka. I again mistakenly assume she's ramping up to move into Alaska, but she turns west into Yakutsk and Irkutsk, defeating the Yellow faction. Pepe rejoices.
Done, son.
Taking advantage of the slightly diminished troop numbers in Kamchatka, I move across the Bering Strait and take a new hold in northeastern Asia. Unfortunately, I make a costly mistake of trying to take Mongolia as well, but lose 2 armies in the battle, forcing me to retreat. Thinking ahead, Dreadpop adds an additional army to the Middle East and marches from China to take Mongolia, Irkutsk, and Yakutsk, leaving Green only with 2 territories. Pepe, now dubbed the Man of International Whoop-Ass, collects another troop bonus from his South American and African occupations, and brings an additional 10 armies to Ukraine.
Green has 5 cards, and strategically, I think I'm just gonna have to take them out.
Pepe marches into Ural and Siberia, defeating Gertrude the Tall and the Green faction. World War Pepe has now begun, as he adds 16 new armies across Ukraine, Southern Europe, Northern Europe, and Scandinavia. The goal, if you've forgotten, is world domination. Only one faction can win this war. Now former allies must fight each other. First blood is drawn when Pepe takes Western Europe from me, but Great Britain fights back in a triumphant effort. That's right, Great Britain, holding strong! Now, with our informal alliance broken, I turn to the eastern United States to seize that territory from Pepe and conquer North America. Dreadpop extends an alliance, to which I accept. Dreadpop then adds an additional army to Afghanistan and a whopping 13 armies to Mongolia, taking Japan, but at a heavy cost. Unyielding, he moves to take Kamchatka from me, immediately breaking our agreed alliance. Dreadpop attacks from both Irkutsk and Japan and fails at both attempts.
I was hoping the dice were gonna treat me well with that.
Power-hungry, he continues his onslaught from Afghanistan and takes Ural, but the Pink faction is defeated in Siberia. With Dreadpop's armies spread so thin throughout Asia, this could be a huge mistake for him. Finally, coming to the realization of the consequences from his actions, Dreadpop confesses his doubts.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm going to lose this one.
Pepe's sights are now set eastward. He makes it known what his plans are.
Yeah, Asia, I'm
now.
coming.
Take your time. Focus on the Americas. Oh, come on.
Pepe, still benefiting from the South American and African troop bonuses, adds another 10 armies to Siberia. Dreadpop curses his troops.
I hope your troop is in Siberia.
The Orange faction fights its way through Ural, Afghanistan, India, Siam, China, and Mongolia, but they're stopped in Japan. Finally collecting on the troop bonuses available, I send an overwhelming force of 19 armies into Central America. With Pepe's focus currently on Asia, it was my time to strike the South American continent. 24 armies sweep their way across Venezuela, Peru, Argentina, and Brazil, swiftly conquering the rest of the Americas. Pepe begrudgingly accepts the loss.
And it's gone.
With Brazil reinforced, I send in support troops from Greenland to Iceland, securing the northern gateway. With Orange strongholds in southern Europe and Ukraine, Dreadpop bolsters his troops in the Middle East. In an effort to connect his Australian occupation back to Asia, he invades India and Siam, then moving on to Afghanistan, China, and Mongolia. Not learning from his mistakes, Dreadpop's forces are once again stretched thin in Asia, but additional troop bonuses can help him. Pepe introduces another 17 armies to the war front and stations them in Northern Europe and Siberia, preparing for battle on both the Eastern and Western theaters. Dreadpop, knowing what is at stake, hopes destiny is on his side.
Only the dice can save me now.
Battling his way into Great Britain and Iceland, the Orange faction conquers the European continent. The Eastern Gate being destroyed was not something I thought would happen, but since he had taken Iceland, I assumed he would move his way into Greenland to take my North American troop bonus. That was not the case. Pepe turned his sights eastward to his Siberian occupation. Pepe marched right through Yakutsk, then into Irkutsk, Mongolia, and finally into Japan. Nonchalantly, he says,
I just wanted Japan, that's all.
In response to this show of force, I once again take advantage of my North and South American occupations, collecting on those troop bonuses and placing my new armies in Greenland. First, I take back Iceland. Shifting focus to Brazil, I attack North Africa, claiming it and ceasing Pepe's African troop bonus. Dreadpop stations 9 new armies in the Middle East and attacks Ukraine, taking it from Pepe. He continues his assault into Europe, claiming Scandinavia, Northern Europe, and Great Britain.
My 50-something troops really diminished there really quickly over the last 3 turns.
Western Europe falls to Dreadpop as well. He boasts about his vast global occupation.
Yeah, and I'm spread thin, but I own a lot of the world.
Pepe, now on his heels, adds 4 armies in Egypt, and after taking heavy losses, he claims North Africa again. At this point, the war could shift in anyone's favor, each faction with their own strengths and weak points. A healthy supply line helps feed the blue faction's efforts, as well as Dreadpop's line stretching across Europe to Australia. One player is at a disadvantage. The blue faction's war machine is now running on all cylinders and adds 9 new armies to Brazil, 1 in Iceland and 12 in Kamchatka. Heavily guarding all routes into the Americas, I direct my armies to Asia, first taking on Pepe in Yakutsk, then in Japan. Still with a significant advantage, I march into Mongolia, Irkutsk, and Siberia. With time just not in my favor, I'm unable to take Ural, Pepe's only Asian occupation left. Dreadpop, having seen my march on Asia, brings 6 new armies to subdue Ural, snuffing out any Orange occupation in Asia. You see, what we have here is a classic case of world conflict. Pepe trains up 6 new armies in response to these defeats and attacks the Middle East from southern Europe, claiming it along with Ukraine. He then tries to invade India but is stopped dead in his tracks. Now, with just a few strongholds across the globe, it is now time to act. Dreadpop, with his European territories cut off from his supply line, are weak and vulnerable. I attack and claim Great Britain, moving south to Western Europe, and then to Pepe's southern Europe, taking it after a tough battle. Gambling on a victory, I go for Ukraine from southern Europe, but they fight back. I pivot to Iceland, and with a much stronger force, I march on Scandinavia, but reserve the bulk of my forces at my North American gateway. In a final effort to weaken Pepe in Europe, I defeat 2 of his armies in Ukraine. Dreadpop, taking advantage of my dirty work, vanquishes Ukraine in Pepe's last hold on Europe. The Pink faction then changes course to the Middle East with a newly bolstered Afghan force, and moves his way south into Egypt and East Africa, taking away Pepe's African troop bonus. I bless the rains down in Africa. Oh, come on. Pepe, mocked by Dreadpop for his low troop numbers, reveals even more armies in the Congo and proceeds to attack East Africa, but it holds strong until finally falling. Next, he marches into Egypt and takes back his African troop bonus. The blue faction returns to the Asian front and brings in 15 new armies to Mongolia. With China being my next target, I proceed with the attack.
Whoa, what? The Mongolian horde is coming to China.
I march south to take Siam, Indonesia, Western and Eastern Australia, and New Guinea. Dreadpop loses his troop bonus from Down Under, along with his long-held occupation of Australia. The Pink faction takes advantage of 13 new armies in India and sweeps his way back through Southeast Asia, taking back his hold on the Australian region.
I want my
back.
Damn it.
Pepe, with his reclaimed African troop bonus, supplies 6 new armies to North Africa and faces off with Brazil, only to be defeated in a crushing blow.
Oh man, I just got ruined.
Now seeing a huge opportunity in Africa, I ship 15 new armies to Brazil, and I make my way across the sea to capture the African continent and defeating Pepe for good. Riding high on that victory, I quickly deploy 10 more armies to Scandinavia and focus eastward into Ukraine and Asia. Making quick work of the rest of the Asian continent, I move to conquer the Australian region and claim victory, though the timing just wasn't right. Now, you're not going to believe this, but Dreadpop came back from this next turn and conquered the rest of the game. Nah, I'm just kidding. Dreadpop made one last-ditch effort to defeat me, but with an overwhelming force of 47 armies marching into Australia and New Guinea, the continent was conquered and Dreadpop was defeated. Global domination achieved. Now you may ask yourself, so what's next? Well, as the new ruler of the world, I'm commanding that everyone hit the like button and subscribe right now. And if you enjoyed this content and want to be part of future events, join the Federation Discord server and become part of the Digital Liberation Army today. In the meantime, take it easy.